United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's a couple extra chairs if anybody needs any.
Long time, thank you.
You're all right? Okay. All right, well, thank you, everybody. And we've got an agenda that looks like we might have to knock a few things off. Put these on, don't laugh. The first thing I'd like to knock off is the PNR Trust Fund park project purchases. And we got some awards for some bids this morning that kind of changed the way we were going to move forward, and that was kind of tied to it. And the other thing I believe is the Water Department annual report. I know Mary Jo and everybody was working on that, and we had last minute people come in and make payments on some late water bills, so that's got to be redone before it's submitted to the board for moving forward on that. So without having a bunch of scratching in the report, I think that's wise.
Can I add something to that, Bruno? This is something that's been in the water ordinance. The water system has been in the township since 1997, and it has never been done. So we have a template created for it, and we hope from now on, this was an extremely large, complicated job. So we hope from now on, previous boards will carry on and do that.
Yeah, getting a starting frame point, finding out what's legal, what's not, and getting a process in place once the process hasn't been done properly for years was difficult. But we've got a decent process and we create the report and date, and it should be done annually, and anything that's outstanding gets put on tax bills from the previous year. It's pretty cut and dry, and it's spelled out in the water ordinance and always has been. It's just never been implemented. It's just difficult to start when things were left to go for so long. So we're close. Other than that, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make that motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay. Motion to move forward with the amended agenda. I'm waiting for Mary Jo.
Thanks, I appreciate
That's all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Same sign. Okay, motion passed. Okay, great. Public comment. We'll start off with Mr. Craig Smith. If you're all right, ready?
Sure.
The letter from Attorney Cable. I'm sure you're familiar with the name. If you don't wish to follow his instructions, I would refer to legal action. But I actually reading this, I don't disagree with a lot of what Greg Smith is saying, but we need to have our attorney look at this. Right?
Well, I would imagine. Well, there's a lot of allegations in this. Absolutely. I'm sure more than one of you looking at it.
Just so you know, thinking.
Thank you. Is that all? You just wanted to submit
Yeah,
that?
that's my 3 minutes with it.
Okay.
Can we get some kind of an indication what that meeting might be?
What's that?
Can we get an indication as to what that might be? The public doesn't know. All we had was a letter presented.
You could request them to read it into the, so it's being
Matter of
recorded.
record?
Have it in the
Yeah.
minutes of record. Yeah. I didn't include this in the minutes, with the minutes.
I think it is under public comment, isn't it?
All that's being asked is that if you put it as part of the minutes, you accept it.
Yeah, it is under public comment because they type public comment sometimes too. It's so good.
Mr. Smith's name will be in there under public comment when I will be the one typing the minutes, and we will notate that this was submitted in there and get a whole notebook with the official minutes. Be the procedure.
Okay.
This is your opportunity to speak if you would like to read.
No, you can read it if you want.
I'm not signed up. This-
Isn't that your responsibility, Bruno, as the supervisor, to read that and let the public know what it pertains to?
Right now, it's
I think it is more so than his right as a public to speak.
he has a right to speak.
And you're the supervisor, and you should be letting people know what you have been, has been put in front of you.
I don't think we should do anything under threat of a lawsuit until we consult our attorney.
Absolutely.
So
Well, to
that
read
effect
it, you're not doing anything other than informing the public what has been placed in front of you, and that's fairly important.
It may
You're not making
it may
decisions
contain
on it.
truths, it may contain allegations.
Right.
You're just informing the public of what has been put in front of you. You're not making decisions, you're not
Okay, what has
answering
been,
it.
what has been critical, what's presented
Just
to you, a
what was
letter from
presented.
Eagles Law PC to the Briley Township Board regarding the bridge property, marijuana, old school property, Big Rock, improper public notices, lame duck trustees.
You know, what I'm used to, especially when this was introduced like this, you don't read the entire thing. What you do is you accept it and as submitted, and then after our attorney has looked at it, then the public can certainly read it.
Absolutely.
If you want to read anything, I'll just read the actions that he wants, but without context,
Did you see actions, actionable items?
yeah, request the following. Right,
Last
so
page.
Last page, 2, 3.
So there are 3 minutes.
4 or 5.
Just a second.
I mean, you can put what he's requesting, and like I said, reading this, but it's a cursory look.
But there's a lot of allegations in here.
All right, that's why
There's a lot of allegations in here, a lot of conjecture.
I would accept it as submitted, minutes and refer to our legal counsel.
I'll second that.
Is it in fact a lawsuit or is it
No.
No, it's a letter.
allegations?
No, it seems like it's a request from an attorney to the board, so I would imagine it's a prelude to some sort of, since it's from an
Potential
attorney, it
action.
needs to go to our attorney.
I've found in anything, history or business or anything, once you say, I'm referring to my attorney, it's an end conversation, the thing goes to the attorney.
That makes sense.
And nobody's asking you to have a conversation.
He's had an opportunity to present it and read it. If he chooses not to, then if he wants to present it in writing, then we will forward the writings to our.
At least they've been informed.
Okay. Bill?
You need to go back.
All right. This is probably not going to be pretty either.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We need to vote, we have a
Repeat
first and a second.
the motion, please.
Motion to accept the letter from Mr. Smith as submitted, made by Mark, seconded by Mary Jo,
Actually, it's from Pagel's Law, it's not
Right.
from Mr.
from
Smith,
Hagel's Law.
submitted by Mr. Smith. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passed.
Should it say in there that we are referring it to our attorney as well? In that motion?
Any other feedback?
No, that we just accepted this letter.
Okay.
And refer to
It needs to
attorney.
refer to an attorney in the motion.
Okay.
Now ask again. For after the approval.
Aye.
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 All right, motion passed.
Do you want us to-
Yes.
Yeah, because I can't confirm these things, there's no way that we can do this now, regardless. Okay. Sorry, Phil.
That's okay. You ready?
Yep, you're.
You won't like this either. I've had, I've had this for quite some time, and I have yet to bring it up until today. I know it can't affect the election as of now, so I can speak regarding this. I didn't want to make it look as though I was trying to eliminate my competition, but this is a very serious issue. Ed Coomer, back in May, submitted to this board a letter requesting reimbursement for his legal fees in the amount of $1,774.83. This was because of a billing of November 15th of 2019. Mr. Coomer said in the board meeting twice that he was in fact paid for this. The township was not paid for it. It was a personal thing, and it was to protect his own personal interests. He said the same thing to two judges, one of which, the last one, asked him specifically why this was not brought by the township and not him as an individual. He said, I'm paying it to protect myself. And now, in May, our board has decided to reimburse it. It came in on 5/28. Reimbursement check number was 37616. This was May 28th of 2020, and the board gave approval through the minutes to pay it. Even worse than that, had you read it as a board, you would have realized down here it says on 5/28/19, prepared for and attended court in Rogers City, 1.5 hours. And then he wants $44.08 from Ed. You paid for that, this board did. That has nothing to do with this issue whatsoever. This was improper billing by the attorney. So I've got problems here because, number one, you shouldn't have done that. One of the things that I've been studying a lot of lately is township, clerk, and all the other things that go with it, board actions. Prohibited action, the township board officials and employees shall not create a debt or incur a financial obligation on behalf of the township. Section 18.1. Now that says that you didn't have the right to do that because it was incurred by an individual, it wasn't incurred by board action. You didn't ask him specifically to go file that claim, he did it on his own. And because of that, I think you've reimbursed him $1,778 and change that needs to be repaid to Briley Township, to the taxpayers. That's all I wanted to say about that. So I said, if you look it up, it's called malfeasance, and you'll find it. Okay?
Phil, what was the check number on that?
37616.
You got it?
Thank you.
I can't memorize all that stuff.
I'm sure, neither can I.
Yeah, thank you.
That's it.
That's all for now, thank you.
Move for the approval of the minutes of September 21st.
And the 28th.
And the 28th, if you want to put them together.
Usually you vote for those separately.
And if you like, you can split it.
What's the board's pleasure?
I'd like to see two motions.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's move to September 21st. Can I get a motion? for
I'm going to make a
approval?
motion to approve September 21st minutes as presented.
Motion by Mary Frame, is there support?
Support.
Okay, support by Mark Edwards. Has everybody had opportunity to review? those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, motion passed. Okay. Special meeting minutes of September 28th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve as presented.
Okay, motion by Freeman,
Support.
support by Edwards. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passed. Okay. Treasurer's report.
In the general fund, there's $24,452.21. In the money market in the general fund, there's $159,817.83. In the water fund, there's $45,012.20. In the money market in the water fund, there's $35,347.29. In the road fund, there's $27,339.74. In the money market, there's $181,300.24. And in the tax fund, there is $87,711.09.
Motion to receive and file the treasurer's report.
I'll make that motion.
Is there support?
Support.
A motion and a second to receive and file the treasurer's report. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Receive and file motion.
I wanted to let the board know that because of all the COVID and stuff that we've had, and we've had the credit card and the check where they can pay online implemented for 2 years now. And with this COVID-19, it is a godsend that we have that, and it's put out there so the public can take advantage of that. So I just wanted to let the board know that that was a good thing that we did.
Moving on to payables. Payables up to 10/15/2020. Your motion to pay the bills.
Make the motion to pay the bills.
Is there support?
I'll support that.
Your motion and second. To pay the bills. Any discussion?
We should have a roll call on that, please.
Yeah. Just need some discussion.
But just one thing in the future, again, this is, what I'm used to, it's not right or wrong, but it's practical. I like to get this before the meeting, so I can look through it, rather than after the meeting and have to understand. Because there are questions, we can have, and I'm just used to get the packet a week ahead of the meeting, especially when it involves expenditures, because there could be a lot of questions going back and forth and clarification. So, something that should be done by the new board.
Appreciate that. I don't see anything. Roll call, vote. Whitmire?
Aye.
Freeman?
Yes.
Township, yes. Edwards?
Yes.
Okay. Put Edwards as a no, please. I don't think you can abstain. Unless you have a conflict.
No.
Okay. No, I understand. I appreciate it. Yeah, 3 to 1. Okay, the county designated assessor. The state of Michigan is trying to change the assessing in the state and create a county designated assessor position that would bail out townships that are not making the state's minimum requirements. I'm sure this is something that's kind of fluid. It's been going on for a little while. The county had some recommendations there. They wanted to move forward on it kind of quickly. The townships kind of dragged their knuckles a little bit because of the costs and finding out what the costs were because they were kind of hidden at first. But over the last few months, we found out that it could be devastating for any township not to be up to par with their assessing. And the Albert Township Board rejected the county's designated assessor. At first, they were kind of supportive of it, but once the numbers were crunched, this was something that we didn't want to engage in. I think Avery Township also has decided not to sign the agreement with the county, and I do believe that the state is still revamping and relooking at that and changing it. So my recommendation to the board is that we do not sign with the county for a designated assessor. The state can name one with the county if that's what the state chooses.
Are any of the townships disagreeing? We should sign that?
The townships that I've been in contact with, none of them agree with the costs. They would just devastate any township that was engaged. So I think it was a good idea. I just think nobody did the math. Well, it's a good scare tactic to make sure that your assessors are up to par.
So what would the additional cost be to this township, or is it?
If this township was out of compliance, it could be up to almost $400,000 to get brought up to compliance, depending on what was wrong with it and how much needed to be done. But they have to go back 3 years, and it is a tremendous amount of work. So I think everybody's going to readdress their assessors and make sure that they're up to par, so that never happens to anybody. That's the board's responsibility. But at this point in time, to enter into a contract, as it was stated, it was really open-ended and really broad, and I don't think it would have been in the township's best interest, because it would not have had any recourse other than following the contract. And it may not have been even applicable by the time the state redoes it. So my recommendation is just to refuse the County Board of Commissioners' recommendation.
Hey, do you think you could speak up a little, Bruno? Kind of wait a moment.
Okay, sorry. So, that being said, I will make a motion to refuse the County Board of Commissioners contract for county, to engage with the county for the county designated assessor. I'm not even sure if that's still applicable. I would make that motion.
I'll support it.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to refuse the county's contract.
Is that a roll call vote, because it's money?
We're not spending any.
Still reject.
We're not really spending any either way.
Okay.
We can do a roll call. Sure, if you want. What always ask. We'll do it the same way.
Aye.
Raymond?
Yes.
Wojcik, yes. Edwards?
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay. Okay, this is from our last board meeting, authorization to sign the amendment for the Wolverine right of way. Basically, that's all we need to do. You have a copy of the amendment, I think. Okay, well, it didn't make board packet. I apologize. The actual amendment itself.
Oh, I did not copy that due to the extent of it. This is what I gave you in the board packet.
Yeah, and essentially this was the same thing that,
It's the exact same thing.
yeah, and, you know, they just don't want the liability for all the property, so
Correct.
it's more procedural than anything else.
Correct. But we do have a copy of it. They've been calling me nonstop. See if I'll button these up as they move forward.
Yeah, you come to the process to do that.
So I will entertain a motion to give the supervisor authority to sign for Briley Township for the Wolverine Power reaffirmation and amendment to the right-of-way, the easement agreement for the year 20.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
A motion by Edwards, support by Freeman. Any discussion? Okay. Roll call vote. This is a contract. Okay.
Aye.
Freeman,
Yes.
Orchard, yes. Edwards,
Yes.
motion passed. Are you on fire? There you go.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Oops. Okay, DNR Trust Fund project bids and awards. Today, the reason why we're having the meeting today is because we have a bid date in time of 9 o'clock this morning. We basically only received one bid. The DNR prefers that the bid go out in one big package, and one general contractor did bid on it, which was Meridian Contracting, I believe, on it. The bid came in at $280,712 for the base project, and there were some alternates there that also added up to some, which was considerably higher than what was estimated and what was anticipated. And so I recommend, and it was the recommendation of the engineers, to get a hold of the DNR and see if we can't split this up and reduce some of their expectations a little bit. That's on the project to get this number down to a reasonable figure for the work that we need done. Some of it is a little extreme and way above our project budget.
So by doing that, do we jeopardize the ability to get the grant as good of a decision we need to make today or not?
No. At this point in time, we should reject the bid, just to let the bidders know that they were not awarded the bid. And then after that, or during this, we can also put it out for rebid, but I would rather have a separate motion for that, to get with the DNR and put out this another bid package that would possibly reduce some of these, but the DNR has to approve the bid package. So once they see the numbers that came in on the one that they approved, they'll reassess and work it and work out a little, something that possibly we can afford that they'll accept. So this is the process, unfortunately. So, totally recommend that we refuse to do it, but wait for a motion.
I make a motion that we refuse the DNR TDOT project bid that's submitted.
From currently contracted.
And I'll second that.
Support and second to refuse the bid. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion passed. Now I'd like a motion to instruct the engineers to work with the DNR to resubmit, just dismantle and resubmit so that we can get this bid cost down. And it doesn't look like we're going to get any work done, so we're going to give everybody a little bit longer time to sharpen their pencils through the winter. And the bids probably won't come back until the next board is seated. So they'll have an opportunity to do a bid opening and see what it's like, and they can go through this process more than once. But that's my recommendation, is to put it out for rebid and allow them to submit again. And if it's broken up further, then we make it more than one submission.
I'll make that motion.
But we do, the board does have to instruct the engineers to engage the DNR.
Okay. So it's part of the motion.
Yep.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion by Mary Jo, second by Mary. To work with the engineers and the DNR to reduce the project cost. Somehow. Where it's something that's amicable for everybody. And I appreciate the one bid that we did get, and it gives us a starting point. Someplace for the next board to look at. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passed. That's a DNR trust fund bid awards. Now we have a separate resolution to extend the DNR trust fund grant agreement. I do believe this will get them into July. This bid right here, I believe, said that they would not even complete or think about completing until August. So the 6 month, once they get, if they wish to proceed, or however the next board wants to do it, and they can apply for more extensions as needed if the DNR will approve that way, or maybe we can get something scaled down to where they can get it done within 6 months, and start the year in the spring. There's a lot of concrete pouring, and a lot of places won't work in the winter time, so it's unfortunate that it took this long, but everybody's working from home anymore, and it's really difficult to get any communications between people and get things done and everybody together at the same time. The process is slow. So we have the resolution in the packet, I believe.
That motion.
Motion by Mary,
I'll second it.
and seconded by Mary Jo.
And it's one roll call vote on that page.
Purpose of this amendment is to extend the end date of the project period from 1/31/21 to 7/31/21 to allow for more time in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, it's a resolution. Roll call vote. Mary Jo?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Wilczek, yes. Edwards?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Okay, we skipped over one, which is in our project purchases. Parts of this project, we're having some recyclable components, and we're hoping that this bid would come in something reasonable, and we stuck a few benches and tables that we could get ourselves to not have to pay a third party to get them for us. So we had some purchases here, but we're just going to allow that to give a miss and let the next board deal with that also. But there's components to the grant that are a certain amount of recyclable items that need to be purchased and placed somewhere. And these are just recommendations from the engineers. It's part of the plans. And I'm sure somebody will pick that up and either make changes or pick a different color or whatever they have to do.
Could I make a comment on that, please?
Absolutely, please.
For those of you, and I'm sure most of you are probably informed on the grant process, you get points for certain projects, environmental friendly projects, etc. So this is just part of the requirements that we've gotten points for. And it's very, very important that these conditions are met specific to the grant, because we don't want to have to pay the amount of money that is already into this stock project back. So just passing that on as a friendly comment to the next board.
Thank you, Mary Jo.
You're welcome.
Okay. So motion by Mary Freeman, Mary Jo, did we take a vote on that resolution?
Yeah, it was one.
Okay. I believe we did.
Yes, we do.
Okay, now the zoning ordinance amendment and publishing thereof. This goes back to the planning commission's public hearing. And this is the ordinance to amend Briley Township zoning ordinance concerning marijuana medical businesses. We got a, where is it? We got a report from the planning commission for the September 14th meeting. Thanks everybody that were here, that were there. And it was good discussion, obviously.
Comment?
That's not good. Go ahead.
Yes, it's part of that meeting, a number of people were here at that meeting. To me, it's not ready. The applicant, Sean, his last name is, he's no longer involved, so we don't even have an applicant. I have, major concerns with the comparison of liquor license. We can regulate liquor license in the state does by population. Here, my original thought was if you're going to do this, do it with one, and then put a moratorium on it for 6 months, see how it works, and then adjust, change, and go forward. But one of the major issues I have with it is it's unlimited. You can't have as many as you want. One of my thoughts was that you could have one and then maybe two, and then they're a mile apart. But they're not together, and you don't have them clustered. So I just think it just needs a lot more work.
After reading through the report. I did call city manager in Conway, which has one of these. Township board encouraged to contact Conway with their experience. And I just want to let everybody know what that call consisted of. We were very excited about the project that went in. They said they tucked it away in their industrial complex. And what happened after that was somebody bought up all the rest of the industrial complex because they have 2 openings and they have to be in the industrial complex. So now they may have an issue that they might have to find another place for the second license. Or
I create them now.
correct. Correct, but once you isolated them, now you created a unique situation to where other people targeted that area.
See, this is, you know, if we go back to with the hemp, and that initial meeting, I was very uncomfortable with that meeting, and we found out later on that I had a right to be comfortable because the process should have been, it had to, it was except for study, and at that same meeting, and again, I'm listening to Gordon saying, oh no, we can approve an except for study into an ordinance. I've never heard of that before. Our attorney came back and said the same thing. And then we find out that we didn't even need to do that. Is that correct? It says we didn't need anything special because it's a right by use by the state. In effect, for a hemp operation that the board doesn't have.
Correct.
Yeah. So we wasted a ton of time just by not doing, you know, the homework. So, again, I'm not saying that's necessarily the case with this, but at the planning commission meeting, there were a number of people that had legitimate questions that need to be answered before you can adopt this. It's my 2 cents. Yes?
Okay. Okay, we had most of these people here during that time, and everybody here was positive. Not everybody. I take it back. Some people were undecided or didn't have an opinion.
I don't think you were here, were you? He wasn't.
He's talking about the hump.
The initial board meeting, you were here, you left early. Everybody here was positive and for it. I don't know what happened or what had changed.
The ordinance says something about unlimited number, contradicts itself in the whole thing.
Right.
So you're gonna allow as many as
In every
people
zone.
want, people can do it?
How many restaurants do we limit? Do we?
And in any zone? That's
In
crazy.
any zone, really?
It's not allowed in our water, R2.
It's not.
It's a-
That's not what that said.
Who wrote the
I mean,
ordinance?
it's a discussion, everybody. It's a walk-in retail establishment, correct?
It's a grow too.
It's
though.
a grow.
Yeah.
It's a micro business, correct? Everything's contained within that building,
Correct.
which means it's grown there, it's,
Produced.
Right,
processed there and sold there.
right.
So you're asking that, you're in this ordinance, you want it to be everywhere. It was not, did not designate no residential. It said everywhere, every zone in
No,
Briley.
it did not state.
I read it, it didn't say otherwise.
Right?
It was everything except residential.
Everything
Or
but
one in R2, correct.
The other thing is, to Marva's point, and others, Sean said this, you need a building 10,000 square feet. It has to be vertically integrated, you know, from seed to growing to recording all this stuff tied to the state, it's a very sophisticated operation. And it requires, quarter to $500,000. So it's a big deal. This isn't something we can just say, oh, let's just see how this works out. So,
You said it's not allowed in every area, R1 and R2 it's not allowed in, but you've got commercial business and residential 1 and 2
Right
in
there.
Old Town, and you were going to allow it in Old Town.
Right.
So you got commercial and residential butting right up to each other. Where do you draw the line when it's safe to build next to?
Residential isn't allowed in all districts by special approval.
Yeah, but there's no language in there to protect the people that have a residential building, to have somebody move in and put in a micro business. There's language in there to keep it 5 feet away from where children might congregate, so what are you gonna do when you got a residential with kids?
well, what Bruno's saying is you could do technically it's called special land use, but
If you wanna restrict it out to agricultural and industrial, you'd be better off.
Starting there.
I agree with that one.
And it's the overall benefit and detriment to the township and the people, the taxpayers of the township. Has there been a study done to show what increased traffic there might be, or anything that may create
Can the
to
infrastructure
the local
handle it?
residents that live near the commercials, whatever zone? I think there needs to be more input, more studies done, more thinking, really concerned about the community.
When
Before we
somebody
just
is
do
willing to put in $250,000 into a business,
Yeah.
investing that into our township, to go through this process so willy-nilly and not looking at those details, you're really setting someone up to have a huge loss.
Look at McCormick.
I could not afford to lose $250,000 because you didn't cross all your T's and dot all your I's. We need to do that for these people.
You know which I's are not dotted and T's are not crossed?
Allowing it in every zone except the residential, unlimited. You're setting yourself up for a potential lawsuit from the investors, the people who want to do this, if it failed because somebody came in and said, you know what, I challenge that ordinance. I challenge that zoning plan. And you get a good attorney on that, we could be in a huge lot of trouble.
Somebody to
Not for
challenge
you.
to stop somebody from coming in?
No, we need to make sure that that document is unchallengeable, so that these people who are investing do not have to worry about loss.
I totally agree with you. That's why we had the attorney draw it up.
It's not.
Something that he could stand behind and say that it's not challengeable is what we
I
want.
don't believe so, because it contradicts itself in 2 places. Maybe it needs to be reviewed, but it contradicts itself.
well, and to that point, we don't have an applicant. We haven't checked any other communities. We haven't benchmarked it against everything.
Do we have the infrastructure?
Right.
Do we have the ability to handle something that big?
How big is it?
Potentially.
How big is it? I mean,
If it's unlimited, that could be huge.
It's gonna be 10,000 square feet.
Let's just, what if?
And if you have 5 people that come in, that's 50,000 square feet, that's how many potential clients, that's how many potential new residents,
Should be.
because it's gonna create jobs. Can the school handle that? Can the roads handle that? Can the infrastructure handle?
do you think
Unlimited.
we should limit the amount of restaurants?
We're not talking about
We're not, a
I realize
restaurant
that.
is,
I'm
how
just
many square feet is
asking.
your restaurant, Susan?
How can you compare a restaurant to this? I
Yes.
don't understand.
There's
No.
the same thing, there's traffic, there's
No, 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 no,
taxes,
no, 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 no.
affects
No,
the
no, no, no.
community.
You have, the restaurants in town are what, maybe 3,000 square feet? We'll be generous, 3,000 square feet versus 10,000.
Correct.
We have 3 restaurants, really, that are running. And you have an unlimited number in there of 10,000 square feet or more. That's a huge difference.
That's-
Your 3
And
restaurants does not equal 1 business.
I agree with you. But more restaurants won't come in here because there aren't that many mouths to feed. So it's dependent on the community and the
Bruno,
people.
you can spend it any way you want. The bottom line is the thought and process in this has not been done.
Really hasn't been
It has
given
not
full
been thoroughly
consideration.
vetted.
Is there a committee, I can't
They
remember.
weren't at the meeting.
A committee formed dedicated to finding out everything possible about
Can I
this.
tell you why? Can you tell you why I went some of the decisions? I went by right so that somebody couldn't peel money out of these people's pockets when they try to come in, because they have to ask for permission from a board or from an individual, which usually means a lot of money gets handed under the table when they come in, because they have to buy their way in with permissions. So that's one of the reasons by right. The other one is, if you do it by permission, you have to come up with the standards of the permission.
It's more than.
The
Should there not be
standards of all
standards?
permissions can be challenged much more easily than by right. That's the reason for that. That's the same purpose of the unlimited. Once you put a number on it, you have to justify the number. Once the number is reached, you have to justify that. How are these people getting it? Why are they getting their, and why isn't anybody else being able to come in if you're allowing it at all? Those are all challengeable. So there has been a lot of stuff. You're saying that I'm doing this willy-nilly, and it really has not.
No.
I'm looking into it, I've been speaking to lawyers, I've been speaking to the industry,
Point one.
and you should have too if you want to consider
You
this.
have done all this.
Correct.
You have. But what about the people who don't know that you've done this or have had the opportunity to really understand and hear it
Then they elected
firsthand?
me to trust that I was going to do all of that work.
We
for
elected
them.
you to do a lot of stuff and I don't want to go there.
But I have done that work, and I'm doing this to the best of my
Why
ability
is,
for the
with
people.
something that is this significant to potential investors, why is there not a committee that is doing this? A committee, because one person only has one site and one thought process. You get a committee in, you've got different views, and you have different takes on what's going on, and you can see things
The
differently.
brainstorming effect.
Nobody could open a place in here without going through a site plan review anyway, because you would have to either change an
So-
existing building or build one.
What is your benefit? What do you see as a benefit from doing what you want, what you've investigated, what you've researched, and what you think is best? Because nobody else has seen what you've seen.
And if
So
you,
in your ordinance, this thing, what do you see as being the benefit
I
for
see the
township?
benefit is jobs for the community that don't exist now.
Do you have any numbers that can prove something like that? Because there's been no real study done, has there?
No, as a matter of fact, the first one in Onaway is only opening up in 1 month.
Correct. We just.
They've already hiring 6 people.
That's great. So what can you commit to the benefit of this township, one,
Absolutely.
and detriment to this
I
township,
can
two?
guarantee that we will have nothing if we do.
You can't go to the bar and get even a buzz for $100. You know what I'm saying? So come on, this is enough, this is candy, this is pocket candy.
We've got two issues here, we're getting them confused. We're just talking about the fine from 300 to 600. Let's just vote on that. The next board's gonna have to negotiate what they do.
3,
with that.
and then the second one would be
Second.
Thank you. And then I'll take care of idiot this report, I will report back, that's a new board. I plan on doing this in the next week. As soon as I get this passed, I'm gonna get this clarified. I'll report to anybody. And I want it to be public knowledge. You guys need to know where your money's going. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got a planning commission meeting, we're like way over 30 minutes.
Is there a
Oh,
motion?
So let's, yeah,
wow.
wrap this up, guys. I'll make that motion to increase the white fine from 100 to 300 for the first offense, and then to 600 for the second offense.
I'll second.
Okay, there's motion and support to raise the white fines. 1 to 3 first offense and from 3 to 6 second offense. Any discussion? I guess it's not township money you'd be losing.
No, you're gonna gain, if it stays the way it is, you're gonna end up with $33.
Well, I understand. I
don't like
understand. I was thinking wrong, and I admit to it. I thought
I
we were
want to bring
losing
revenue
money.
into the township.
I was thinking wrong.
Okay.
Definitely was thinking wrong. I thought we were losing money by that proposition.
We are losing money if we don't
I
raise
get
it.
it.
Right.
Well, we never had it to lose it.
I don't want to make money off it, I just want to.
Can
All right,
I get a second?
Motion?
I'm
Yeah, get a
second.
second. This was the discussion. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you. Briley?
Okay, so
You're
then my
absolutely
next
right.
question to you is, why were you not at the public comment? If you're the one that did all of this investigation, all of this research, all of this fact-finding,
All
all
this
of
knowledge.
this writing of this thing, why were you not here to talk to the public that did gather and give their opinions and their thoughts, and you weren't here
That
to
was,
give any
that
information?
was a public comment period for the public to come in and comment to the board for us to receive the public's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That is the time for that.
But it
That's
would
not
have
the
been
time
any
for
day.
It's not the time for my preaching. Sean came in.
Are you not a
He is-
member of the community that you
Yes,
could
I
have
am.
spoke up?
It's not called preaching, it's called information.
Correct.
I don't have all of the
Informed.
information.
Then why?
Then why are you
That's
pushing it?
why I had, and I asked.
You don't
the
have
person-
all the information, why are you so upset
That is
that
why
this
I
is
asked the person that did have the information to be here for you. If he wasn't good enough, I was not gonna give you any better information.
You just did exactly what you always do, you went around the mulberry bush.
Yeah.
I
And
have a question.
you're detracting and you're deflecting.
I'm with the state.
Sure.
One of the things, and I told the applicants this, and I told Sean and Tim here when he was here in the flesh. When I read this thing initially, I saw the word person. The person indicated, and I was sort of going that direction, that this in fact was an individual. When I read the contract that was put together, the word person could mean partnerships, corporations, all kinds of things. They could in fact direct the individuals who have the buildings and have the businesses. And they could operate under that contract set up by the corporations. And they could literally be persons individually set up with the corporation controlling. That's not illegal. So that was where my problem was with this, one of them. The other one was when they mentioned, and Mr. LaFlesh brought it up more than once, school, the old school, the old school. And the problem with that is, I think the people don't want that in that building, number one. It obviously would benefit a current board member, because you wanted to either sell it, and it can be leased, it doesn't have to be sold. You could lease it to Mr. LaFlesh or anyone else.
Or the township. Could buy it,
You
lease it.
can lease it to anyone else for this purpose.
For that
And,
purpose.
and that goes, that's way out of line as far as most of the people in this town are concerned. The other thing was you didn't make anything available to individuals that did not want to do a grow and didn't want to do a micro business, but wanted to open a business that would give individuals to come and purchase. Product.
Retail, bringing in goods and products from outside.
There was nothing there, and
Correct.
nothing in this.
Correct.
So you've limited it to one type of business that can do this, when in fact you could have grows out in God knows where with 160,000 plants in a building, and there are some of those around, 160,000 plants in a building selling to not in a micro business, but in other businesses.
Totally agree with
You are limiting the scope of the ability of the township to make money as far as revenues and jobs by only looking at one thing. Personally, I'm in favor of micro business. I got no problem with that, and even with this, if it's not in town, should not be allowed to grow in town at all. If you want to do it out where Sean is, I see no issues with that. He doesn't affect anyone other than possibly traffic or engineering, and I don't know what that's going to entail, but that's about it. So I'm sort of mixed on the subject. I don't have a problem with doing a micro business, but not in town, not in Old Town, and not in the C1, or even the C2 in town. If it went to industrial, there's nothing wrong with the industrial. Nothing. It's zoned for that.
Well, these are walk-in businesses.
Yes,
They
they
are
are.
establishments.
Yeah. And that's fine. I mean, you go to anywhere else, they
That's a
all,
small part of it.
many townships have got drugs, but they all set them up in investable areas, or they've
Those are-
created a special area for them.
I
This
understand.
allows too
Those are
many.
massive grows, correct, with different types of operations.
Yeah.
I agree with you totally.
So it needs to be.
I was trying to be innovative and I was trying to do what personally I thought was best. That's my own personal opinion. And it's not for my own benefit, it's for the benefit of this township because people have been coming to me for jobs in this community for years. There's only so much I can do myself. I'm not interested in getting into this. If there's somebody on the outside that has an interest, a dispensary, you might hire 2 people, maybe. If you're not gonna bring in your own people from outside because you're selling your own product, that usually means a large corporation's gonna come in and sell their product and dump in here. You might as well bring in a Walmart's.
But it wasn't provided for.
I'm just saying, correct, because
So
that,
what?
correct, because that dumped a lot of product and made very few jobs.
And the fact being that this type of operation, if it was in town, for example, if it was here, it can sell product for a whole lot less. There'd probably be a lot of vapes, marijuana vapes that would be available. And the cost factors are so low that it will almost kill the micro businesses. Because the majority of the business downstate is gone to marijuana vape.
Correct. And
So-
the micro business is available statewide, pretty much. A lot of places have got it available. The only one in Michigan is on the way. It's more of a boutique type thing as far as that industry goes, as far as I've been told. And it fits small towns a lot better because it does not dump product into a community that can't afford dumping, and your money from the consumers of that ending up in the big city, because we have enough of that when we buy our shoes and our hats and our food. So the more we can recycle our money by getting the most amount of jobs here, that's why I looked at this as probably the best model out of all of those models for this community. Doesn't have to be this way. I don't care whether it's here or not.
I think everybody sees the benefit.
Absolutely.
Everybody sees the benefit, but to say this is like opening a drugstore
Or a restaurant,
restaurant is,
it's not accurate.
yeah. So I really think that we should table this and let the new board take it up because it just needs a lot of work. There's no way I'm comfortable in voting for this.
And that's fine. I'm just saying through my contacts outside of here, they said that the smells from the restaurant were worse than what they have. And
Sometimes they are.
I'm just throwing it out.
I'm not concerned about that as much as I am the other issues we're talking about. As far as the business and how much it would bring in with employee base and so on, I got no problem with that. This is very good for Briley Township. It's just a matter, it needs refinement before it's presented and can be passed. And nobody's going to look at it and say, this is a bad thing.
Understood.
Too many people.
But you're not going to get anybody interested in coming in here unless you're got something to present. You've got to have a house for sale before somebody comes
And
looking
you
for
got to have
houses.
the rules established before they'll come. So
Right.
this comes before the actual operation.
Well,
Yeah.
It's just like zoning, it's the same thing.
well, I
It's
agree.
got to be established.
I agree. I'm probably too much, I believe too much in the freedom of open market and people competing and things working out naturally. I'm not about designing and planning that much because number one, it's exclusive and it's,
Yeah, and again, I think everybody feels that the concept is good. I mean, that 15% of, or 10% of the revenue will go to the schools, to the police, to the township. We make, everybody benefits off this, but everybody that was at the planning commission meeting, all of us, including, I speak for the rest of the planning commission, felt that this thing needed just a lot more work.
Yeah.
Everybody likes the concept, but this isn't something we can rush. This isn't a restaurant, to your point, Susan. This is something that needs a lot of thought.
It does.
What about the ordinance is supposed to go into effect on November 6th? That's going to allow micro businesses, right, marijuana micro businesses?
It's zoning dependent.
Well,
It's zoning dependent.
we had in fact a discussion on that the same night, and one of the comments out of it I brought up personally was a moratorium. And I think that maybe upset Sean a little bit. I told him it could be as much as 90 days. I'm not the board, I'm speaking for me. If I was on that board, that would be my recommendation, and it wouldn't necessarily be for 90 days. He doesn't want to hold it that long. He wants to invest the money, get everything going, and I appreciate that. But again, if the rules of the road aren't well established, it's going to screw up everything he's doing just as much. And I don't want to see that for him or anybody else coming to town. I'd rather they come in here and say, I'm so glad to be here, and everybody's playing by the same rules.
Since you weren't at that meeting, and Mr. Ed Mark didn't express my concern with the unlimited quantity of micro businesses, my concern is this is a new thing, and everybody's gonna want it right off the bat. But if you allow an unlimited number, and the novelty wears off, we don't need a bunch of shuttered businesses in this community.
Yeah, and just
We
so
don't
you
need
know,
more shuttered businesses, I should say.
and just so you know, that was a major concern of mine. I did mention that
Thank you,
one and then maybe another, but I had a major problem with unlimited, so.
thank you.
to your
I
point.
agree, but at the same time, if we have businesses come in and pick up the wedge, fix the wedge up and fail, now you have a fixed building instead of.
At least it's up to code.
The other
There you go.
question, that and I don't know if anyone's addressed,
There's
are all the
two
private
ways of looking
grows.
at everything.
All the private grows, which can be considered, in essence, a micro business. Out of their home, they're growing it, they're processing it, and they're selling it from their home, right, Bruno? Right? They're selling it right out of their home. True.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening to your beginning. It looked like you were talking to Mark.
Well, we made eye contact, so I directed it that way. But the point is, we looked at all the homegrown businesses, all the people out there growing their own pot,
All the caregivers,
all the caregivers and other,
you know.
growing, producing, or processing and selling from their home. You could consider that a micro business?
Do they need 10,000 square feet?
Do they?
Does it matter? I mean, they're doing it
Does the
anyway.
ordinance qualify 10,000 square feet? It doesn't, it just says micro
Up
businesses.
to 100.
So those that aren't meeting the requirements can be shut down and said, no
Or
more,
would they
put
try
in jail? I don't know. What do you do with those?
Caregivers aren't allowed to have 150 plants.
No, but the thing is would they try, because it doesn't say specifically the
Exactly.
numbers,
It doesn't
would they
say
try for
specific.
protections underneath that zoning ordinance, saying you can't shut me down because I'm a micro business?
Well,
You
true.
know? I mean,
But here's,
that's what you need to protect.
right, but here's to the point, and Sean brought this up, is this has to be pre-approved by the state. These
I
guys have to
agree.
do
Right,
a lot of
true.
things.
I agree, but that is not spelled out in that ordinance.
Exactly.
And others, and we know people around here who would try to manipulate the wording to try and get a protection for themselves that isn't there. And that's why that needs further refining.
Could you explain what you just said and what you're talking about, so I understand?
Okay, does that ordinance say micro business and go on to explain 150 plants, state licensed, 10,000 square feet, blah, 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 all the details? It does
say-
not.
It does not
So,
say 10,000 square feet.
You are opening the door to some of these home growers to try and find a way to get protections from that zoning or that ordinance
Right.
that was not meant for that purpose.
What
There's
type of
nothing in there that
protections
says
are you
you have
talking
to have
about?
10,000 square feet. You
That's
can-
what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
It
they can
doesn't
have their own
do
micro business in their home.
What type of
That's what
protections?
he- is
are
that
you
what he
That's
talking
what
said?
I'm
about?
saying.
That's what she's saying.
That's what I'm
That's what I'm
saying. I grow 25 plants in my house, so based on that, if somebody come knocking on my door, well, I don't know.
If you want to go through the process of getting licensed by the state, then you got a micro business.
But that zoning ordinance doesn't say licensed by the state, it just says micro business.
Right.
It doesn't give those specific
Does it say 10,000
details.
square feet in that?
It should have been very specific.
It
Maybe
needs to
Joe
be
mentioned
more
that's why I asked.
specific to that, so
Did
that
you
we
read the
don't
ordinance
have these
changes?
people trying to twist it
It does not mention marijuana
to get
microbusiness.
protections they shouldn't
It's
have.
very specific to each line item of the changes.
Wow.
Wasn't,
I don't think-
isn't
I don't
that
think-
what the state called it, was the state, was the
I
marijuana
just-
micro-business, wasn't
No.
that, isn't that what the state called it? That's how I took it
Yes.
from Sean, that if the state named it the marijuana micro-business, so you had to follow everything in the guidelines from the state mandated micro-business.
But is there
That's
anything
how
that,
I thought it was listed, and that's how I thought that micro-business name come about when I talked to Sean about it. It was the state that made that name, was the micro-business.
but it does not reflect that that is state directed.
Directed.
It doesn't
Must
say
be
it, it
compliant with
just
the
because it
state.
has the same name, I mean, that doesn't.
The ordinance itself, here's the title of the ordinance. An ordinance to amend the Briley Township zoning ordinance concerning marijuana microbusinesses.
Right.
So it definitely is marijuana microbusiness.
But it doesn't, it does not
Maybe
give
we should add state
the
approved.
detail that the state of Michigan does.
Marijuana. The term as defined from time to time in Section 3 of the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act, being MCL 333.27953. It's specific right to that.
To the
Marijuana
taxation,
establishment is also the definition in the act. as
to
pointed
the
out.
taxation,
To the
that doesn't to
taxation.
the licensing.
Marijuana microbusiness, a person licensed to cultivate not more than 150 marijuana plants, process and package marijuana, 21 years of old, safety compliance facility, but not, it's definitely referring to the
Licensed
states.
by whom?
The state of Michigan.
Licensed, it doesn't say the state.
Yeah,
It doesn't say
MCL
licensed.
3.
Yeah, let's say-
That's
No,
the
that's
first
for the
state.
taxation. That's not the
That's the
licensing.
license.
I don't believe so.
I have to look at the MCL.
MCL 333.27953.
Just the fact that we're having this discussion
Right,
shows
it
it's
shows
not
nobody,
clear.
exactly.
I'm reading it right off of there.
Again,
Do
from,
you have anything other than this that you have to present that shows different? Because you're challenging and saying that the
and
I's
that's
are
the
dotted and
point,
the T's are
Bruno.
crossed.
That is entirely the point. You've left yourself open to a challenge. And
I'm waiting
She
for the
didn't
challenge.
involve anyone.
Present it.
I just did. There are too many questions as to the specifics.
They're here.
And again, I'm not going to go around the mulberry bush with you. I'm tired of it. Not doing that.
We need to move on. This was all drafted by an attorney that had spent,
What attorney? We don't even know, who was that?
the township attorney.
Who, what's his name?
Brian Graham.
Mr. Graham did this?
Yes, he did.
Would he be open to talking to the public about it?
Are you gonna pay the bill for it? Because he's gonna charge.
Are you gonna pay the bill for it? Miss, I'm gonna make all the decisions for people who want the answers.
Okay, this
I'm not gonna pay.
was done in the best interest of the township.
It was, that's what you say. You own the school. You own, I'm gonna tell you, this school. You tell me that Tim doesn't wanna put a grow in there and start a micro business in there. You tell me you won't benefit from that at all, ever.
I'm telling you right now, I will not benefit from it because Tim doesn't want to put it in there.
That's fine, we want an
But
agreement
the way that
saying
it's,
that.
but wait, the way that it's written, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be Tim. It can be anyone because it can be anywhere. and it can be
Okay?
Financially,
Let me satisfy your
Excuse me?
question. I have nobody interested in doing
No, that is
anything.
not my question. I could give
You
a
just
flying
stated that.
flip. No, I could give a flying flip if you make money in any way, shape, or form. I don't care, Bruno. I don't personally
Benefiting
care.
from this position.
What I care
Benefiting from
about,
my position in what manner?
I'm sorry, Ellen.
what
interrupted
I
you.
care about is people who are coming into this community, investing that kind of money
Money.
cannot be challenged because there are questions And somebody who has a whole hell of a lot more money than I do, hire a good attorney from downstate, bring it up here and say, I don't want this near my home, my vacation home, my anything. I don't want it challenged because I don't want to see investors lose,
Anything can be challenged.
period. And so we need to make sure that the foundation is strong and not rushed and not put together haphazardly. And everybody that was here had questions and believed it can be challenged. And this conversation shows you can be challenged, Bruno. So
Evelyn,
what I'm saying is it needs to be tabled until it can have a strong foundation, because this is not. With your unlimited, with your not specifications, there's too much that can be questioned.
Is the board planning on voting on this right now?
Yeah. I'm not gonna vote on it. I'm going against it.
It's questionable. It needs more foundation and it needs more research from a varied point of view instead of one.
Well,
The majority of the questions for the public hearing, the people that were at the public hearing, what were they concerned about?
And
It's
the
not
these-
just
these
this board,
things coming
it's
up.
the attorney.
But I think Phil said it, in finance, we have something for advisors, it's called rules of the road. We don't have rules.
Correct.
And, I mean, all these points are legit. I think we're beating a dead horse. We gotta vote either for it or you're against it. I mean, do you guys feel you have enough information to vote one way or another?
I was involved with numerous calls to the attorney. I'm banking what I have to say on the fact that the attorney was informed, he knew what he was talking about when he drafted this for us. We have not had any questions regarding this that
For the
directed
private,
to
not
him.
the
You need to
50,000
direct
bucks.
your questions to the attorney, because the board did not do this. Bruno did not do this individually. This is from the attorney.
Okay.
It's in his best,
And
to
the
the
public
best
comment is
of
supposed to
his
go to the board.
ability.
and it was
And he
based,
made this.
it was based on the meeting that we had
That's what they're
with
looking at.
those two and the individuals here, all the questions.
So
that were
again,
asked,
you put the
all
cart
of that
before the
summary
horse.
to move forward with it.
But
That's
you
all.
didn't wait till public hearing for more input.
I've dealt with a lot of lawyers and a lot of businesses over the years in my experience. And I know personally that when you go in there and you are a business person and you have something that you want to do, you tell the attorney what it is you want, and the attorney's job is to put together a document for you to get what you want. That's always the way it works. You're paying for it, and he's gonna do or she's gonna do exactly what they're asked to do, and to make it legal. They're gonna look for every loophole, every possibility to make it work.
I'm going to respond to the negative people here that I'm going to probably vote against it because, number one, if I was investing that kind of money and I seen a crowd of people in a community that had this type of an attitude, I would not come here and do it anyway.
I agree.
So why should we bother trying to invite people if everybody here is so negative against new things coming in?
It's not negative against new
It's
things coming.
protection.
It's
It's protection.
your method of doing it.
It's not
Come
my
on,
method.
be realistic. You haven't signed any committees to really investigate and research it. You've done it all yourself. You haven't allowed the community to be involved in it, to welcome it. You haven't.
had the attorney draw this before you heard public
Mark
input.
said it all. Mark said it all at the very beginning. More research, you have to follow
Public
through.
input every day.
You know what?
But you just like,
Doesn't matter, take it
you
away.
put the
I'm
cart
good with it.
before the horse. You had the attorney draw something up before you heard public input with public thought.
You can't get input on something unless you have something to respond to.
Exactly, we can't get into.
You don't need the ordinance,
it.
you need the
Allows them more
subject.
information.
You have to have a horse before you discuss where the legs go. you have to have an idea of what it is, you have to have some sort of a framework.
So now
This
you're
is
upset
a-
because we're telling you what we feel about it.
I understand.
Oh, yeah, that was negative, I don't think so,
But
but
it
that's
sounds
good.
negative.
That's good, that's good.
It
That's your,
sounds-
well, that's your belief, because we disagree with you.
Would it not be better just to
That's cool.
table it for the next board and have more discussion and
Yeah.
investigation, and you wouldn't just kind of let it go for now?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Do more- The planning commission can be more involved.
Other than, it takes X amount of months for business to start. The one in Nottaway started in spring, I believe. They're 1 month away from putting out product. They have got to go through an entire winter of no sales. So,
Bruno, we don't even have.
So your rush is
I
what?
understand. Well, let me finish my, I'm just saying, the reason that it came now is so that somebody could, hopefully, if they had an interest, which we had 2 parties interested, that they could open in the spring and catch a good season to get started as far as a business.
2 parties.
Okay, now we have, both of them have moved on because it's not available when they need it, and that's gonna happen a lot in business. When I'm looking for a site, I'm ready to move, and I'm ready to move now. If it's not available here, I'm gonna buy it there. It's just like going out and, I need a car, I'm ready to go out and buy a car. You don't
I
have to
get
buy
that
a car.
part, but
That's the only reason.
if all of these questions are up in the air, wouldn't it be better to have answers to those questions before you moved ahead? To have all of those ducks in a row,
Have
have
the
all of
framework
those
done more
The
things.
foundation.
appropriate.
Yeah,
Understood.
a foundation, yes, exactly. So that there isn't problems down the road, and so there isn't issues down the road, that it's all set and ready to go.
Guys,
We wasted an enormous amount of time on this, and got anywhere
And I
absolutely
understand.
nowhere.
I understand.
guys, I mean,
I don't know how anybody in the public's ever gonna feel totally comfortable with something.
Oh, everybody isn't going to feel totally comfortable with something new, but I think people would feel better if they knew that there wasn't going to be ongoing issues.
True.
And that's what I think, because I personally, I
And
couldn't
the
care
rush,
less one way
why
or the
such a
other.
rush?
But if this is an example of people in this community
You're
feel,
right.
then I'm thinking it ought to be tabled.
Right, it's not ready yet.
No, it's not.
We're not ready for moving on. I agree.
can we, because it's getting a little heated, can we?
No, I totally think that the community is still afraid to move forward and do something that it's not totally comfortable.
Is the zoning,
Because they don't know all the answers, that's why.
is the planning
Nobody's
commission?
ever going to know.
It'll
It's
take
not the
time.
subject
You can't
that
rush
is
into
questionable, it's the way that it
You
is
just-
done.
You're not going to know until you buy a
You
car.
can't get an associate's degree in a month. It takes time. You gotta do.
It's
You gotta
been
teach
4
yourself.
years since the last election. There's been a lot of, there's going to be a lot of movement. There might be a small window of opportunity for somebody to have a business in here that might last 3 to 5 years. And then, like you said, be put out of business by new things coming. That's very possible. And you may have a building that got renovated for 3 or 4 years. And that may just phase its way out. And we may wait a year, and that might be on its way out, and we may have to wait to the next train. That's up to the community. We've been waiting a long time, and we passed up and missed a lot of opportunities. Trying to capture something when the iron's hot. I've already lost 2. I'm not concerned about it anymore. I've done the best I can as far as grabbing something that creates some employment in this community. If the community's not ready to react that quickly and be that prepared to take on and embrace something, I realize it's marijuana, but it would have been local. It's something that's already happening here. It would have been somebody that's probably in the black market coming to the surface and being able to start a business. That's basically all this is. If the research isn't there, and we need to research it more, and the community needs to feel more comfortable with it, it can take its time and do that. If the boat leaves while we're doing that, then we just wait for the next one, and maybe we can, I'm sorry, I'm going to be sarcastic, we'll study that one to death till it leaves too.
Well, I personally couldn't care less one way or the other, frankly. I don't use marijuana, don't give a crap who does and who doesn't. I don't.
Right.
But an ongoing,
And I appreciate it.
but an ongoing issue over these are valid points I think she's made. And why we would want to stop that train before it even started. Have everything lined up and in a row before you even started, so there wouldn't be problems all along. That's just how I'm looking at it.
Right. The only place I know that has that opportunity is the big people that are coming in now. And they are just gonna come in like Walmart's and just put in Kruski's and it's going to be very not small townish. You're gonna get product that's developed all over the place and brought in and sold. That's,
You have something to say about, the board has something to say about that, don't they? I mean, somebody can't come in and just start a business willy-nilly without.
no, but if you allow it, that's gonna be the one with the most deepest pockets and the most amount of attorneys to come in and do it. So
Because I
that's
don't
what
want
you,
this to be that small town.
that's what I'm saying, that's the alternative. And that's what I'm afraid of. And that's why I personally would have.
You've already got an ordinance on the books that says there's no marijuana allowed in Briley Township.
Correct.
Right.
Yet you're trying to sidestep that with this new amendment saying, but we'll allow micro business.
Correct.
Yeah.
And don't
And
forget, it's
the
still,
other ordinance was done through a committee. There was a committee that studied on that. Yeah, I think there was 5 members of that committee from the community.
True. True.
We had several meetings on it.
Did the planning commission give you their view of where it could be located, where the zoning, where has the planning commission
Alternative?
responded to you
The
about?
planning commission only took the public comments and recorded them for a public hearing.
but
And they didn't give you?
There is no recommendation from the planning commission, they just performed the public hearing for the township board. They created a document and we're reading off the document and some of the concerns were there, although most of them were answered in the act and the.
yeah.
Not where it can be located. That's my
It's
only problem
addressed.
with the whole thing.
It's I understand that there's some difficulties in some of the problems, but nobody spoke to they said that they don't like it, but they have not quantified or shown what detriment or what they think that it would do, that would have been negatively impacted.
Okay.
Move on,
Move on, please. I would move on.
Let's,
Move on.
we're not getting anywhere, but.
No, let's move on, please.
Okay, but I can personally guarantee that I have absolutely nothing in the wings, and I have absolutely no conflict of interest moving forward with this whatsoever.
It's fine, and I'm just speaking what the people have spoken. I'm just repeating what their concerns are. I suppose what we can look at, though, is this is a positive learning experience. That if we weren't so secretive and kept things so closely vested to ourselves with knowledge and maybe formed the committee that, or people to help welcome new ideas, rather than just keep it so quiet to ourselves, it might be more beneficial if you're into a learning experience.
Well, and I explained this to the planning commission, as the board's representative to the planning commission, I've done this for 2 decades. My job is to be an advocate for the planning commission. The planning commission had major issues with this that have not been addressed. So that I think, and Bruno, I understand that, you know, you look at this as a funnel, you did all the research, you put a lot of work into it, but as everybody's saying, it needs to be communicated. And it hasn't been communicated, and there's just a lot of flaws in this. It needs to be refined. And you need to have a public hearing. They call it a charade. It's French. And basically, to have boards out there and explain, okay, here's the concept. Get public feedback. We haven't had that. We need more of that.
When Sean and Tim was here, I thought, with everybody out here asking them questions.
And
But
I
they haven't
think everybody
formed
agreed
there
to it.
too, and they went to the
You
planning
posted
commission,
it on
and it's been
Facebook.
posted on Facebook, and it's been
And that's
blasted
the
everywhere.
point. You guys
Everybody's
didn't post
blasted
it. Bill told me about that meeting, and I said, you need to post that so the community knows, because otherwise, if he hadn't posted it on Facebook, the community would not have known that that meeting was taking place to even show up here.
And it should have happened at 7 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the
Yep.
afternoon.
Sounds like we just need a little more time.
Did you make the motion to table this?
That sounds like to me.
What's your
Let me make a motion to table ordinance, what is this, 02 of 2020? An ordinance to amend Briley Township, Township zoning ordinance concerning marijuana micro business. I'd like to make a motion to table this.
Okay, I've got a motion to table. Is there support?
Yes.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion?
My discussion is, basically, a lot of time and effort was put into this. We thought we were doing it correctly in being in touch with the attorney. There were probably 8 calls to the attorney before this was even done. And so consequently, I'm going to vote with Mark. I feel that with the negativity that's involved, that the best thing is to table it. I think we need to be welcoming and positive to new businesses in this community. I'm not sure that that will ever happen, and you can quote that in the paper, Yvonne, from me, from what I have seen. We are going about things in a positive manner. It's negative. And as a businessman, or woman, I probably would want nothing to do with this community. I'd run the other way.
Everybody agree, yes?
Well, I haven't had a vote yet, I'm still waiting on some comment.
That was done.
That's it? I don't have anything else to say.
I just, again, just to reiterate, I've been through this with the planning commission, talked to you in detail about this. I think everybody agrees it's a good concept, but it's so different to take a Schedule I drug and just say, okay, we're just going to do this, we're going to allow as many as we want, let free market, decide what happens. I think all of us have a problem with that. And we want to refine it, we want to do it right the first time.
I agree. I agree with you. I can't disagree with you more. And I believe when those roads were being built, they were going to limit the amount of cars that could come through town because they made too much smoke and they made too much noise. But that's just my opinion. There's a time when things are accepted and there's time not. The vote was there last time, 4 years ago, it was close. Briley Township voted against it, the state voted for recreational. In the meantime, the state put together a package to try to save some of the local area communities to develop it. Those rules are changing. As we speak, there's an opportunity for some of those people to enter into the market here in Michigan, because we will be overwhelmed by the outside influence of states and industry that has been developed, and countries that have been developed over a place else and are far away in this state. That being said, and I know that for a fact because some of these people here already working on. So that's happening, and if we miss an opportunity, it's not because I didn't try.
That's right.
Yay me.
Okay.
Thank you for all the hard work.
Okay,
you put into this.
there was,
Are we going to have a vote?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
All in favor of what?
You voted to table.
I tabled the ordinance.
We tabled it.
You're supposed to state the motion, sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like,
I know, it's all over, and I apologize. All in favor of tabling the motion?
yes.
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 Does this also include what Craig had mentioned about the
Those opposed? Aye.
November 6th?
Doesn't go into effect?
Sorry.
Don't go into effect?
It still goes into effect, but it's definitely dependent on zoning. It's directly tied to zoning.
Okay.
So you're gonna let it
Can't
go
have
over
a zoning.
the ordinance?
We tabled it.
They tabled
Nothing's
that.
going forward.
No,
This-
it's already been published.
The one part has gone forward. It's directly tied to zoning. And when you look on the state's website,
So we've tabled the zoning, so it's not going forward.
correct, correct.
Okay, that was my question. Does that tie into that part?
Both parts have to be in place.
All right, we're good. We don't need to discuss it for an hour.
Both parts have to be in place.
I got it.
Okay.
Just making sure.
Planning commission.
Okay. Sorry, planning commission. We had a resignation and we had an application. And that was the term that coincided with Gordon Green. I'm not 100% on when that is, but it was, I'm sorry, they got me all messed up here. But, where is my, see, all this stuff got me all excited, all passionate. And it's only because of the amount of time and the sadness that I see as far as the employment opportunities in the community.
That was tabled. Yeah.
We're talking about appointments to the planning commission right now.
Yeah, we need to accept,
You're the
no,
only one
we need to
that
accept
has
the
that.
resignation.
No,
Yeah, maybe not.
oh, I don't.
I saw that.
Yes, Steve's, well, anyway, Steve Stanfest resigned from the planning commission, so unfortunately, I'd like to accept his resignation. With regret, he was a good guy, and he was quite professional and skilled.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Steve. Steve
Is the,
resigned.
excuse me, is the planning commission like a township?
Yes.
It is a spin-off from the Township Board that does its planning, and strategic planning, and public hearings.
That's what that's for?
Correct.
And the planning commission is separated from the board, and they make their own decisions, even independent of the board. That's the way it's written in statute.
They create the master plan, the recreation plan, and the board adopts it.
Yep.
So they're basically the public liaison as far as the planning and working out those details to the township board.
For now, we do not have Steve's resignation.
Okay, well,
I apologize.
That's all right.
I didn't get it.
That's it.
We just have to accept that.
So make a motion, I make a motion that we accept Steve's Stanfest resignation from the planning commission.
I second that.
A motion and second to accept Steve's resignation. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? The motion passed. And we had one applicant, we're looking for the letter of interest. Interviews?
You're the only one that had it.
You put it in my board packet. Okay, but Dan, right?
Dan,
Okay, well, anyway, I'm going to move to appoint Dan Kent to the planning commission to take Steve Stanfest's, for the remainder of Steve's.
Steve, who? Kent, right?
Dan.
Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Kent.
Kent, K-E-N-T.
I know who he is. He's a good guy.
Anyway, that's my recommendation. He's shown an interest, he's been in here a lot, we've asked him a lot of questions, I think he's ready for the office. If he gets it, he'd be the board liaison, if he so chooses, if not, he'll lose that position, whatever. But he doesn't want to get involved, so I don't want to miss the window of opportunity for somebody that's active and discouraging.
That's fine.
Well, I'll make a motion
That's
to
one
appoint
will.
Dan
Yeah.
Kent to replace the Steve Sandfest on the planning commission.
Just, yeah, you need to approve.
To approve
Yeah.
that, oh, you're right, to approve the appointment. Thank you.
That's right.
No, second. Or
Is
do
there
we need a
support?
second?
Yeah, I need support. We need support. We
Second.
need support.
Yes, we do.
Mary Freeman seconds the motion. Any discussion on Dan Kent? He's a builder, from what I understand. I don't know him personally. We don't have anybody with that expertise that I know of on the board at this time.
I know his son is a long-time resident, involved in the community, so he's a good pick.
I think moving forward, the board will do okay with it. I hope. I don't
He
know.
is the son, Mark.
But
Dan is the son.
Dan is the son, it's Dan Campbell Jr.
Yes,
He's the one that's involved?
yes.
Okay. That
Not
person-
his dad, yeah,
It's him, then I personally know him. Yeah,
Yes.
he's very knowledgeable.
yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passed. Is that the last thing on there?
No, we have
No.
Dave, yes.
Oh, no, we kept reading that. Land division fee increase. I'm just gonna throw something out here because I've heard word that we are being charged $150 for land division by our assessor for each division. So I think our fees are less than that over the counter, and I think we need to recoup what our costs are for doing land divisions. So I would move to increase the land division fee to $150, which is exactly what the township is charged. So
Why wouldn't we charge more for administrative fees?
Right. Right.
Good.
Because you have to process.
I can amend the motion. Give me something, give me a number you'll support.
How many hours does it take to prepare a land division for the administrative? Approximate?
Well, basically, they would deal with them directly mostly, but we can do all the faxing and copying and it's mostly done at their
We
office.
suggested 200, but 200 is what we suggested.
Two? Okay, I'll change my motion to 200 for land division.
Excuse me, does that mean like if you're at 40 acres and you want to break up into 4? That's okay.
You want to split your plan?
Okay.
What's the cost now?
You don't have 75.
200.
Okay.
No, currently.
And the assessor charges 150, so we're losing.
Okay. So I changed my motion to $200. Was there support?
I'll support.
Okay. Who got it?
Mark.
Mark? You got that, Mary Jo?
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion on this? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passed. Dave, you really want to get up and talk?
Gee, I hope I can bring some, my name is Dave Guest. I'm the zoning enforcer. I'm a white officer. Our tickets or our citations right now are $100. And how that works is if you give a citation, you go to court, okay? If they decide that they're not guilty or they hiccup or whatever they happen to do, it's moved to a higher court. When it's moved to a higher court, the township hires an attorney. They don't have to hire an attorney, but we have to hire them. Not because we want them, because the judge wants us to. So usually when that happens, and that's only happened once, and we are batting 100%, it costs the township approximately $400. The attorney comes and sits with me, I have all the evidence, I have the pictures, I have everything. And he sits next to me and he presents it, basically. With blight, it's been $100 for years and years and years. $100 is nothing. What I'm finding is, they get their fine, they come to court, they pay it, they pay court costs too, which can vary anywhere from $10 to $50, depends on the judge, what he feels like that day, I guess. That's all I can figure out. But for $100, they go right back and do the same thing. Second offense is $300. And what's happening is, the taxpayers of Briley Township, the people that take care of their houses, the people that keep their stuff clean, are paying for the people that don't. This is your tax-paying dollars. Your tax-paying dollars are being wasted. I don't want to make money on blight. Zoning, I'll just throw this in. Zoning, we're way ahead this year. We've had more zoning permits than we did last year, so I'm very happy with that. But going back to blight, it's costing our township money. So I feel that we should raise it to $300.
Raise what?
Raise the first citation. If you get a citation, it's going to be $300. Let me point out one other thing too that I'm going to do. Now, I talked to Donnie Edwards, who's a commissioner, Mount Munson County Commissioner. And what happens now is if they're found guilty and they pay their $100 plus their court cost, we get reimbursed from 88 District Court about $11.35 roughly, which is terrible. We're doing the work. We're doing everything. So I talked to Don Edwards about 2 months ago about this, and he said, I agree with you. You guys should get more money. I think we should get 50%, at least 50%. Because court costs are usually for the retirement of the judges. Those are what your court costs go. The fines and stuff go into the county. But when Briley Township is doing this and trying to make a better community and keep your values of your house is going up and not down because of blight, I feel that we should get 50%. Now, depending on what they do, whether they raise it or they don't, I want it raised. I would like to have it raised. I'm going to go to 88 District Court and I'm going to sit down with them and ask them, why are we not getting 50%? I'm going to try for 75. But understand, the people in Briley Township are paying for all this. And it's not fair. It's not fair at all. We need a blight officer. We need a zoning enforcer. It's very important. But why should good tax-paying people that keep their property nice, keep flowers, whatever, pay for everybody else, for these people that are not? And it's the same group of people. They move from house to house, and it's the same ones. I mean, I can almost give you a list. And I feel, and I've been pushing this right from the beginning, since I got the job, that $100 is nothing. Back when you could buy a gallon of milk for 59 cents, that's when the 100 came into effect. Times have changed. It's time to raise it and get their attention. I have people that get their fine, walk out of court and laugh. It's only 100. It's only 100, so what? We're defeating the purpose.
So what are you suggesting then?
Excuse me?
We get the problem, what are you suggesting?
300.
300?
Yeah, I'm suggesting 300. And like I said, I will go to 88 District Court, and I think the public needs to know this. Everybody in Briley Township needs to know how this ends up. Out of $100, we are getting $11 and some cents. Out of 300, we're going to get $33. That's nothing. So I'm going to work on it. And believe me.
Would you raise the second offense also?
I'm sorry.
You said the second offense was 300, would you raise that also?
I think that's a good idea. I really do. I think that should be at least 500.
Okay.
Because what I'm saying is, you guys all in this room are paying taxes, and you keep your houses nice. I know most of you guys. And you're paying for these people that are coming in here and doing this. It's wrong. It's wrong, and it's your tax-paying dollars. So anyways, I like your suggestion.
Dave? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay.
Are you done?
I'm just trying, I'm a pretty good salesman, so I'm just trying to sell you.
Okay.
But
I'm
anyway,
a pretty shrewd buyer.
okay. I'd like to be raised to 300, and I like what she said. Second offense goes to 500. Or you can make it 600.
You should double it.
Okay, then let's double it. Let's go 600. I'm not trying to be mean to anyone.
No.
Understand that I'm not out to get
Need a
anybody.
deterrent.
But I'm tired of seeing the township pay for people that are doing this, and they laugh in our face. It's wrong.
The status quo is working on when it comes.
So what happens if they get the first citation and they don't pay the 300, so then you go get a second one and it goes up to 600, how do we move forward from there if they don't pay the second one too?
Oh, they have to. What happens is when we go to court,
Court.
when I go to court with these people, and they admit, and a lot of them do because I have pictures and I have files on them, I gave them warnings, I document everything. So when I go into court, they know that I've got all this stuff. So when I go in court, they admit it. And what happens in court is the judge says, you are fined $100 and your court costs are $50. When can you pay this? Can you pay this today? And they say, no, I can pay it by Monday. And he says, okay, you pay it by Monday or be contempt of court. He's pretty firm. And the minute they pay their fine, we get our $11.35, whatever it is. If they don't pay their fine, there's a warrant out for them. It's a little more serious than people think it is. Once I get into court, it works very good. And so far, I've been bad now.
I just wanted that clarified for the public, so.
But I did have one that said, and I'll give you the example, one said that I was trespassing, there's no such thing. It's a fine line. So then we had to have our attorney come in and go through all that stuff and send all the paperwork. The attorney sends us a bill, and what did we get out of it? We got $100. $100. No, we didn't get $100. We got $11.35.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So anyways, I would like to get that, and I like your suggestion. 300 the first time, 600 the second time. That's all I have to say unless I have any questions.
I do. The percentage that we get back from the county is based on what? And where did they come from?
How did they base it?
Is there a law? Is there a rule? Is there a guideline?
No, I think they just picked a number out of their head. They was like, excuse me, 1%, 1.5%, 2%. I don't know how they did it.
So it's negotiable.
Exactly. And the thing is, what I plan on doing is I plan on going to 88th District Court and talking to them about it. If I can't get anywhere there, I'm going to go to the Board of Commissioners. Because we are paying for everything. You guys are paying my wages and they stay.
And they
You're paying mileage and you're paying for me to go out and give them a warning and then another warning and then another warning. You know, I don't like the rate tickets. I'd rather just get the
Get it done.
place cleaned up. But sometimes you're pushed in the corner when you need a rate ticket.
Okay. I want to support you really bad, but what I'm afraid I'd be supporting is, right now we're losing $89 if we're getting 11 back. If we bump it up to 300,
You're
we're
getting
going to be
33
losing,
back.
we might be losing $270.
Well, you know, here's another thought, and this is for the new board. I don't know how this would work. I'd have to do a little more studying. That the fine would be paid to the township. Okay? But I don't know. Through the courts, they have to be accountable. I mean, if they don't pay the fine, they basically go to jail. Now, the $11 per 100, or $11.35, that's a ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And the only reason it's like it is because nobody's brought it up. Nobody said a word. And I'm going to say something. I'm going to say it nicely. But I'm going to ask them, how do you, if we're doing all the work, we're spending the money, and we're going through your court system, how come you're making this much money and we're getting nothing?
And we're doing the work.
Well, that's court costs. I found out that that's court costs, because I did have one guy that kind of complied, and once it was done, I'm in the last one state, and I asked the judge, could you give him a break on court costs? I have a son that's a police officer. He said, don't ever do that again. I said, why? He said, because that court cost is the judge's retirement. He says, you don't want to make the judge mad. He did more. But anyways, I've seen some court costs go through there at $10. I've seen some at 50, 40, 30. You know, what do you mean, 10? That's not my business. But I'm going to try and get the money back to Briley Township. And I believe I have about an 80 to 90% chance of doing it.
Can you ask them why that Briley Township is the entity that has set the fee or the fine? Why they're keeping what we have on our books as the fine?
Right.
That doesn't make sense. They didn't set that fine.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree.
Right.
And I'll
So if you would just ask them.
No, I totally agree. And I think we're getting where we're at. I really do. And I'm a taxpayer. I live in Briley Township. I work for the Briley Township people. And I believe that we need to get the state fair. Now, I've been pushing this for a long time. I finally got on the agenda. And they knew the minute they put me on the agenda that I wouldn't quit talking. So they don't like me on the agenda. I talk a lot. But anyways, I will do that, absolutely, you're 100% right. Okay. You want to turn somebody here?
Yes.
Well, let's wait till we get up to 200. Anyways, that's what I have to say. I hope you guys will support me.
I do support you, Dave, 1,000%, and I think we need those details in that contract or that agreement worked out. Because once again, if we raise it to 300, and they only give us 30 back, we're
Okay,
actually losing back.
had I not even brought that up, I'm only bringing this up to the public so the public knows where the money's going. Okay? That has nothing to do with the fines. The fines, it's time to stop this. It's time to stop the taxpayers of Briley Township paying for people that are doing this. And it gets their attention at 300. It gets their attention at 600. $100 means nothing.
Have we received any adult money yet? No other funds from the state of Michigan? I'm just looking at the budget as it stands, or not the budget, but the general fund as it stands right now to see what's coming in.
I don't think so yet.
So nothing.
I would have to look in my files to see if it's in there.
Other than that, guys, I think this is a very spirited meeting. I'm glad it went the way it did. I agree with everything that was done here today with regards to this agenda. You guys did well.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not an easy job, I know that.
It's not.
But irrespective of things that have been said here, and I look at Briley Township as a whole, all we've got to do is pull together in one direction. Get the negativity gone, get the information to the people what they want, try to provide what's reasonable to them that we can do to benefit them and benefit the community. And I think if we do that, we're going to have a beautiful township, and hopefully the infrastructure will be all put in that we need in order to better the downtown. And any exterior, whoever comes out there pays for water lines to be run or whatever it has to be. But we've got opportunity, and I think we're going to take this and run with it.
I can respond to your earlier comments. Before that bill was paid, it was council as far as budget.
I have a question and it's going to need you.
I'm going to go see if I got that check.
I wouldn't have done it otherwise.
I would like to know a status update on our audit and the letter that was received by you from the state of Michigan threatening sanctions.
Sanctions?
Holding of any.
The state of Michigan holds back its payments to the township until it's got all of its things. And with COVID, I'm trying to respond.
Okay.
With the COVID and our changing softwares, and it had backed things up slightly. And we are still, we are not in control of our audit. The only thing that we can do is provide what's requested of us and be there and available for them when they're ready. So right now, basically the last thing I was told is it's hunting season, so it may slow down even further depending on how many hunters there are in the office at the auditing firm.
I find that hard to believe. Professional companies would not have that kind of a response to a township.
Not an accountant, not
Well,
the state
not only
requirements.
that, we have adequate funds to operate for a long time. We're very well funded.
That's not my concern.
Well, let me finish and stop shaking your head and maybe you'll go like this when I'm done. Schools, which operate on a tighter budget, are also audited, and these auditing firms, because the auditing standards have changed, we've told you that, that's why we had to change auditors, they are auditing more places. And the states and their priority list changes to places that need the audit done in order to continue to operate. Otherwise, they stand a chance of shutting down. School systems are one of those that run on a tight budget. So they have a prioritization as far as who's on the top of their desk to get their audits done to make sure the state doesn't stop those funds coming and federal funds from coming in. So the township is not on the top of the desk. They are working on it. They will continue to work with them. We have no control over when it's going to be done. They have all the information, and they are doing their own schedule. We just respond to their needs.
When did they receive all the information from the township? When did the township have all their numbers in order? And
We have
Other
been
reports,
shipping them
information.
stuff for months now.
when did the township finish? Has it completed what has been requested from the accountant?
Correct. Everything that's been requested
When was
has been
that,
supplied.
when was that submitted to
The
the,
last submission of,
when?
I don't know, I'd have to ask Brittany in the clerk's office, but
Okay.
requested
So the-
something last.
The letter was dated the 14th from the state.
Correct.
And so trying to get a timeline of why,
That's that's when the
it
letters
was
get generated from the state to all,
automatic,
anybody.
but doesn't mean, obviously it means that it wasn't
Complete.
complete.
Correct.
And my
If you-
question is, did the accountant have the information on the 14th? Did they?
Do they have all
I can't tell you
necessary?
whatever, they don't have all the information because they're not done. They're going to be in here also picking up
Right.
things as they
And they're
need
gonna
them.
do their interview process, I
Correct.
understand that, yeah.
And they have
And if
given
they,
you
if they find
absolutely-
something that they don't have, they may call us and say, hey, we don't have this, can you ship us this?
And they have given you absolutely no time frame.
No, they won't be promises for time frame.
That's an issue.
All I can
And
say
the
is we're
accountant's name
complying
again
with-
is, who's the firm?
I'm sorry?
Who is the accounting firm again? Somebody, and somebody, and
Yeah,
maybe somebody
it's a lot
else.
of people. Brady?
What's the name of them?
Straley,
Straley? Straley.
Straight with the T.
Straley in Alpena, yes.
Okay.
And unfortunately, it was hard to find anybody to do that because of the state's changing its criteria. And once again, shooting all of those smaller, just like assessors, they're upping the standards on everything. The audit standards have been increased. A lot of auditors have stopped auditing, which meant the workload has increased drastically. And they're adjusting accordingly.
But the point is-
We were very lucky to find
We
a
weren't
lot
ready
of
either.
in the short time that we did,
Yeah.
with the mess that we had. Is that what you wanted to do?
An organization like that, an accounting firm
They don't have
of their
status.
reputation in the community to tell you the things that you just told us they told you is just unbelievable. I cannot
They did
believe that
not
they
tell-
cannot
they did
would
not
tell
tell
you
me
that
that.
it's for hunting purposes, it's for COVID
They did
purposes.
not tell me that.
We don't know, we'll get to it when we get to it. No end date, no idea. Extensions filed, did they indicate they did that? A request for an extension
From,
from the state of Michigan?
does such a thing exist?
That's what I'm
It
asking
doesn't.
you.
You didn't ask me that. You asked me whether they filed one.
Exactly.
So.
Typically,
I didn't
there
know
are
that- I never
extensions
knew
that
one
can
existed
happen.
for them to file one.
So, okay, so.
The treasurer, do you know that you can file for an extension
On the report?
on your,
Because your office is
Yeah.
telling us all that.
yeah.
Brittany just talked to him today, and there was no extension, and what I understood from the conversation, because I did not talk, and it was all hearsay, was that the only thing that they do if we don't get it filed in time, that they go down to our revenue sharing check, and then they issue when the audit's done. That's the only thing that they do.
So
And we
no
have absolutely
extensions.
no idea how long it may take them to complete. A
The
month,
audit.
I didn't talk
2
to
months,
them. I
next
didn't talk to them, so I
September.
don't know.
Do you know, and I'm gonna throw this real quick at you. The letter from the state addressed the governing body of our township, which means each
Each
one
and
of
every
you.
one, yeah.
So I'm just wondering why only not many could have the information that's required to have
When was
for
the
the
date?
audit. You know what I mean?
September 30th.
Knowing the status of it.
September?
Why would no one really know the status?
I do know that when with Denali and with the CPA going and talking to each other and coming in to do the audit and stuff like that, there's been many health issues involved in that. One lady was working on it, she had a crisis, so she had to leave the office, she quit her job, so it was handed over to other people, that's all I know. So it's been handed to 2 or 3 people between Denali and Staley.
Denali is based out in
Colorado.
the west, and they've been
Right.
with the Forest fires.
I'm very familiar
So
with it.
their office isn't running smoothly either.
Everybody's.
There's so many issues because of COVID and everything that's going on.
But I just think that, you know, that letter states that the state can force their auditors in here to do this job for us, and then we would have to pay for that.
We understand that, Evelyn. We're doing the best we
auditors working
can with
with
it,
them.
and we've stayed in touch with everybody. I've overheard Brittany's phone calls, she's been
I've
on
overheard them too.
top of it.
I'm
We
sure she's been
can't
working
set
on it.
a
But it's the
timeframe for
board,
training.
it's not Brittany,
They-
and I think that somebody on the board should maybe impart the urgency in this
To the accountant,
to the accountant.
yeah.
He's been in the office and we've been talking with him when he comes in the office and he's been going through stuff too, so.
All of us.
I don't know how much more in contact we can be with them other than what we're doing right now.
Maybe be a little
I'm
firmer.
I'm expressing my concerns for the urgency and questioning when things are going to be getting done. I'm getting second and third hand information usually because, once again, everybody's working from home, and if you call an office, they'll get back with you maybe, or what you're doing is they don't want to be bothered because they are so busy right now that my bugging them, coming in and saying when it's going to be done is taking away from the time that it's going to get done.
There's
So I totally understand why people are isolating themselves if they're buried in their work. And so, yeah, I could bother them to the point where they can't get anything done, but I'm sure
There's a
we're not
difference
the only ones.
between bothering somebody and getting information that is pertinent to how it's going to affect our township.
Township. And I
Yes,
guess
the
the
only
important
way that
thing,
they said today that it would affect would be that they would hold up the revenue sharing check.
And
Until it was
or
completed.
send their auditors
And
in.
that's what they said.
And or send their auditors
auditor
in.
in.
Because that's
They
what your
never
letter
said anything
states.
about auditors.
Your
that I
letter states that.
That I overheard on the conversation today.
The
I
state.
did not hear anything about them sending in any auditors other than what we have in place
No,
right
the
now.
threat
The
was
point.
implied in the letter
from the state,
from the state.
the state would send
Did
it
you
in.
see a
And I
letter?
guess my question would be to call the state, find
It
out
doesn't matter,
what
it's there
their,
for a purpose.
yeah.
If you scroll down the state
that's just
website's
it.
page, that's not the first time even our township has gotten that letter.
No,
It's
true,
gotten it multiple times.
True.
It's gotten it in 14
But-
and I think 13. It's
13,
just that it
14,
wasn't
15,
followed on
16,
time,
17,
filed on time.
I guess the question is because we've got a whole new board coming in, what are they gonna be left with dealing with the state? And what is the final straw with the state? When will they say, oh, we're done messing with those people, I'm sending the auditor in? How does it work? I mean, wouldn't that be
There was
nice?
no indication of that today, from what I overheard.
No.
Well, as a matter of fact,
But has
everybody
anyone called the
seems quite
state to find
confident
out?
that this is moving along quite well and everything's up to par and speed.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna say something that may sound really wacky because of the history of our township board and relationship with, but I will commend you for the hours and the time that you put in. I know we disagree and there's a lot I don't believe that has come out of this board and things that they've said, but I can appreciate and respect the time that it takes to do what you do. That's all.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Can we adjourn?
Can we adjourn? Any more
Yes.
public comment? Anybody?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Does the township own the house right directly behind the building? No? Thank you.
Not anymore.
Thank you. Who's starting the
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
6:45.
Opposed? 6:45. Thank you all for coming. 6:45. Sorry if I got
Right on
scared.
schedule.
No. Oh, there?
Thank you, sir.
All right, see you guys.
Lisa? Lisa? Are you Lisa?
Yes,
Oh, hi, Lisa.
I am.
Suitor.